Let's review Magicraft. The game officially launched on Steam November 1st, 2023. I only recently started playing. I have played a decent amount over the past week. I've sunk about 50 hours into the game, basically playing it over what you would a full-time job, which pretty much speaks for itself. I wouldn't have spent nearly as much time as I did if the game wasn't continuing to throw curveballs at me that makes me want to continue trying to beat the game and try new combinations of spells or whatnot. But before I get ahead of myself, I do have plenty of critiques of the game, and there's plenty of room for improvement here I would like to speak on. So let me tell you how this game is a combination of all sorts of my favorite genres in a single package, and it's multiplayer and has co-op. And yeah, I've just been having a blast. And from time to time there are just flat out funny moments that happen very often. Alright. Let's start with the basic overview, after which we'll go over my first impressions, what I like, what I dislike, give some feedback. I'll simply speak out on the glaring issues I found with the game, mainly being difficulty, if you will allow me to enlighten you. Starting with the basics of Magicraft. It is a indie roguelike RPG, top-down, Lovecraftian bullet hell. I know, it's quite a mouthful, but the game is very much a beautiful blending of these different things. In fact, that's a large part of what I enjoy the most. At the start of the game, it's reminiscent of Doki Doki's Literature Club, amazing visual novel, and it's free. The monsters are cartoonish, and the game is very easy. But the further you go, you start to see a more supernatural twist, a difference in the way the monsters look and act, and the way they move starts to catch your attention, and it only gets worse from there. Structurally, there are a lot of trees and barrels that can stop your and enemies attack, making for some much needed cover at times, as you will soon see. Don't be afraid of dying. It's a roguelike. You will die a lot. With that, the game takes heavy inspiration from Hades. I've played a little bit, so I did recognize a few things, but there's no voice acting in this game, so I just skipped the story. To beat the game, go through procedurally generated room after room, killing monsters, bosses, and mini bosses, and finally, you have a chance to kill the big bad evil guy and escape, maybe? I don't know. I didn't read the story. Anyways, before sending you off to fight for your life, the first NPC gives you a wand and your first spell. Spells being the main source of damage or survivability under certain circumstances. It's a roguelike, so spells you get after leaving the hub area are randomized. Other than spells, there are relics which give you passive buffs. Some can do damage, and that damage is really good for the enemies in these small rooms, but enemy health scaling is kind of weird in this game. Once you make it to the second and third stages, you start to quickly realize something ain't right for the boss. So you will have to rely on your spells, for which there are plenty to choose from. In this game, there are a lot of different spells that can do a lot of different things, from an explosion to poison damage, to summoning minions, to turning the caster into a ball of lightning, making you invincible as you zip around. But more than that, there are passive spells that can do things like increase mana regen, lower the cost of certain spells, lower the cooldown of them, make spells target enemies, and much more. Needless to say, you can mix and match to your heart's content. In order to do that though, you need somewhere to slot your spells. That's where wands come in. Wands act as a catalyst for your spells. Some coming with spells, others having special mechanics to them, like standing still for a certain amount of time, auto cast spells, as well as having their own stats and effects. Although wands do have their own stats, such as mana, spell slot, and mana regeneration, which makes it to where some spells just don't work well with other wands, which can make it kind of frustrating since, like spells, you have a starter wand and the rest are just randomized. So if you're going for a certain build, it'll be kind of hard to get it how you want if you don't get the correct wand that you need. But relics can help mitigate that grind. Relics are permanent passive abilities that range from always grab to hot garbage. There's a particular relic that can give you thorns, and when you hit, it damages all enemies on the field, which works really well for clearing out trash. And others give you 3 fairies that stop enemy projectiles on a pretty long cooldown. Did I mention this was a bullet hell? Usually the main strat for relics is to hope you get a few good ones, and then you select the relics that can randomly upgrade your existing relics. When the player puts spells, wands, and relics together, you start to see some really crazy stuff. In order to spice things up a bit and add a little risk, there are cursed chests that appear in rooms as well as puzzles, which you need keys to open. You can read the curse you get from the chest before opening it, but you can't look at the rewards you get, which is kind of backwards. Curses mostly are obtained through cursed chests, and they're basically just annoying debuffs that can really break your build if you just start opening them willy-nilly. Like some teleport you to a random spot on the stage, and since it's top down and so much stuff is happening, you can really lose track of your character when you're getting hit a lot. But it can also be used as a benefit. There are also some that increase the spell cost, or one really annoying one that just spawns bombs where you're standing occasionally, or the one I dislike the most, the one that rewinds you back to where you were, which in this game is almost never a good idea. If you're running from something, you never want to go back. Even with all of these tools at your disposal, you may run into some problems with just bad luck. While opening chests, you also have a chance to get potions, coins, and keys. Potions, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really paid much attention to, mostly using them to remove one random curse, give me gold or keys, and increase or decrease the character size and max HP. Also, every now and then, potions that are pretty busted, like ones that turn you into a statue and make you immune to damage for 12 seconds. If you have any type of spell that fires by itself, that's pretty OP. But when I'm in a pinch, I never really remember to use them, but that just might be me. All of these come together to help you fight the bosses. The game has a wide variety of bosses, but since I don't want to spoil them for you, I'll only explain one of my favorites. This is the Void Imp. Creature capable of freely traversing the void boundary. This is the void boundary. Spitting out void balls that contaminate the ground. Recover the stages next, but for this boss and many others, it uses the stage to its advantage, slipping into the walls of the room, becoming untargetable before bursting out trying to land on the player. The boss can also turn into a puddle and again become untargetable, trying to slip under the player. This time, though, if the boss manages to get under you, you can't shake it, you're going to take damage. Unless you have a escape card. The fight can get pretty annoying when it does this too much, because as it bursts out of the wall of the stage, it leaves its fluid on the floor of the stage, making it harder and harder to maneuver as the fight goes on. I can say without a doubt that bosses are the best part of the game. Every boss has a unique moveset and no one being quite like the other. And it doesn't stop with the bosses. The monsters also are unique and different based on every zone. You can really tell that this is what the game spent most of its development time on. Did I not mention that this game is still getting updates? During the making of this video, there was a devlog posted on Steam, adding new mobs, spells, and boss fights. The environment, monsters, and bosses really go together. As I said before, this is where the game really shines. Let's start talking about the stage. The environment, monsters, and bosses really go together in each section. In the first section, things look bubbly and friendly, but kind of eerie at the same time, like the snakes that move side to side, smiling as they're coming at you, or the spiders when their legs move. It's a bit creepy, and it only gets worse from there. But not everything in the game is sunshine and rainbows. This is the part where I'm going to start talking about the things I dislike about the game and the things I want to see improved. As you're progressing through the stages, the damage does seem a bit low to me after you get past the first stage. I don't know why that is, but a lot of spells just seem to tickle the boss. Maybe it's supposed to be a long boss fight. I'm not too big of a fan of how little damage you do. Another thing that kind of irks my nerve is that some attacks just seem unavoidable, which wouldn't be as much of a problem if it wasn't for one of the game's secret, which is if you kill a boss without taking any health damage, then you unlock a room that gives you some really OP buffs that can make or break a run, honestly. But they do cost a max HP, but good luck not taking damage. Another thing is there is a tutorial in the game. A lot of the items have a description, but the descriptions are really poor. You can't tell what the item really does until you use it, or how it interacts with other items until you try it for yourself, which would be easily solved if you could test certain spells and see for yourself what they can do. Well, this game does have something that players can't test out their spells with. The only problem is most of the players that have played the game don't have access to it, which in Hades, you'll beat the first boss after a couple tries, but in this game, it took me a pretty long time. This game has too much randomness. The player, in order to make a good build, is at the mercy of the RNG gods. There is no way of getting anything specific besides the starter gear. And from what I can tell, I don't see any type of dynamic drop rates, which drop specific items based on your build, making trying to come up with a build very difficult. The game tries to mitigate this by giving the player a testing area, but the testing area again is not unlocked until after you beat the game on normal, which most players have not done. And in the testing area, you can only see spells that you have discovered yourself, which I still haven't done. And I do think there may be a bit too many spells and wands for there not to be any way to get something specific. Not only that, not every spell interacts with each other. So a lot of the time, you find yourself with spells just laying around in your inventory. You can recycle spells if you get an upgrade room. In these rooms, there are 2 stations. One for recycling and one for upgrading, which you need 3 of the same spells to upgrade. When you randomize, you spend 2 gold and it randomizes your item. So to try and get something specific, you will need a lot of gold. And did I mention the recycle machine breaks? And I'll add this in here, but it might be a bug. There's a relic that gives you invisibility, but later on in the game, some enemies still walk towards you even though you're invisible. I don't know why that is. So yeah, the game can be a little bit frustrating, but overall, I do give it my recommendation. Magicraft is not a game for everyone, but the ones who enjoy it, I think will love the game. That's everything I have to say about Magicraft. Let me know what you think down in the comment section, and I will see you all in the future.